Hi everyone, and welcome to episode number 3 of the Emigrant live podcast. I'm Daniel Biasi, and before we start this episode, I'd like to give you a little bit of context. I'm from Italy, and I decided to move to New Zealand when I was 27. Because I had no idea what to do once I stepped into the new country, I paid an agency in Auckland to help me. We're gonna talk about this company and what it offers later in this episode. And by the way, this is not a sponsor or anything. Anyway, the guy who helped me make the first steps in New Zealand was my today's guest. His name is Robin. He left France when he was 18, and before he settled in New Zealand, he traveled to 16 different countries. He's still running the same agency that helped me when I moved to New Zealand, and is now an expert of the South Pacific Islands. He created a New Zealand's largest travel guide, and more guides for other islands in the South Pacific. He also hosts a YouTube channel with over 16,000 subscribers. In this episode, we're gonna talk about traveling, starting a business on a visa, what a world without border would look like, and even emigrate to Mars. We had good fun recording this interview, and I think you'll be able to tell. Okay, done with the introduction. So please enjoy this episode with Robin. Hey Robin, how's it going? Thanks for being on the show today.
Pretty awesome. How are you doing, Daniel?
Pretty good, thanks. You?
Awesome. It's pretty amazing in New Zealand today. We're actually having great weather.
Nice
it's rare
and sunny.
at this time of the year.
Is it? Yeah, you guys are getting into winter.
Yeah, we are going to be in winter in only about a month and a half. So we're supposed to be getting really cold.
Sweet. Yeah. I mean, you guys getting snow up there?
So I'm in central North Island, so we don't get snow exactly where I live, but we have a beautiful view on the volcano. In the central North Island, you get Mount Ruapehu, which is a big, massive volcano, and it gets snow. It's actually the largest ski field in the country. And the snow is not up there just yet, but it should be coming down in the next few weeks, which is going to be awesome.
Sweet. Do you ski or snowboard?
I do snowboard along with my partner. We do a lot of snowboarding over there. It's pretty awesome. Sadly, I think this season won't be really the same, but hopefully we'll get to snowboard soon.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, even last season here, the season here in Vancouver and quite early this year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Damn.
so hopefully next year. So you're in New Zealand right now. Where are you generally from?
So I was born in France, in the south of France, actually, and immigrated in New Zealand about 10 years ago.
Okay, 10 years. What age did you leave France? Do you remember?
I left France around when I was 18, actually. I started traveling. I traveled quite a few countries. I traveled about 16 different countries before arriving in New Zealand, and I settled in New Zealand about 10 years ago.
16 different countries.
Yeah, it's kind of a good way to check out a few places and see, what floats your boat. I feel like, the world is quite a big place, so being stuck in one place for too long may not be the right choice, So I think just exploring a little bit. There is a program called Working Holiday, which allows people, young travelers, usually under the age of 30, for some countries 35, and it gives you about a year to work and travel in several countries.
Mm-hmm.
And there is actually quite a lot of countries part of this program around the world. And so it allows you, even if you don't have that much savings, to be able to go to a country, kind of work and experience life there and see if it's kind of your thing. And otherwise, you have saved a little bit of money, you traveled a new land, made new friends, and you're ready for the next step of your journey. And that's basically what happens to me until I arrived in New Zealand and I decided not to leave. I was supposed to only stay 3 months in New Zealand, but damn, this country just didn't want to let me go.
Yeah, no, I know the feeling. So you just did you leave France because you wanted to travel the world, or it was just like other reasons for that?
So it was kind of, similar things. I was supposed to just go and do a bit of volunteering here and there and just kind of do a bit of growth and get back to France and finish my study. But instead of getting back to France, I took a plane ticket to go somewhere else. And then I went to another country, and then I went to another country. And then I just ended up never going back to France just because, it's just when you discover the world is a bigger place, you don't necessarily want to keep going.
No, yeah, no, I get that. But at the same time, I remember when I left Italy on the same kind of visa, for me, it was like I don't know, it was a huge step. It wasn't just like, okay, I get on the plane, I go and travel for a bit. For me, it was like, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to start my life over in a different country. And you say that you don't need much saving. And even then, for me, it was just, I think it was like a perspective. For me, it was just like, I need to have enough money to like I don't know, pay my expenses for the whole year. I sold my car. I sold everything I could possibly sell to move to New Zealand and start all over. Even then, I was scared. I had to all the paperwork from the bank statement to show that I had the money. So please let me in. It was so much stressful my experience than yours.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't tell knowing what I do right now for a living, but I was literally the least organized person, right? I literally had a carry-on bag, and that was pretty much it. I left everything behind. You're talking about cars and everything. I didn't even bother with that. Someone has it. I think it's my parents. They didn't bother me. I had a few $100s in my pocket, and that's basically what happened to me. When I arrived in Australia, actually, most of my savings was in cash, and that either got stolen or lost. So I had no money and slept on the beach for a little bit while I found a job. And then the guy that I was working for gave me a bit of food for the few first days before I got my first paycheck. And just things worked itself out. And that's very much how I traveled. And I felt it was definitely not the easiest way to do that. It's the best way to learn amazing life lessons because you do those expensive mistakes again and again and again. So you just get all of them in like 1 year, and then after you have all this life experience. But on the other hand, that saves you a lot of money on having to buy an expensive education because I just have to lose the little that I had rather than put myself in debt for a big amount that I didn't have. So to me, that was a bit easier. And I learned a lot. And now, well, I help people planning their trip and actually avoid making those mistakes. And I've done that for a decade now, and very successfully. And I'm very happy with it. So I feel like it's more like do as I say and not as I do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely helped me because I remember when I went to New Zealand, I used working holiday started, which was your company or was the company you were working for?
No. Working Holiday Starter was actually it still is my company actually, one of
Okay,
my company right now.
okay, yeah, which is at the time, even then I remember offer you, so somebody will pick me up at the airport. I had accommodation for a couple of days. You help me to open the social security, the IRD to pay taxes.
So it basically has everything included. So if you arrive in New Zealand and you do one of those working holiday visa, and you want to have like basically no issues, and you don't want to bother with all the paperwork, basically all is sorted for you. Even before you arrive in New Zealand, you can send your CV, and it's going to be checked out by the team here, and they're going to make sure your CV is going to be all right for when you look for a job. We even take you to the bank. Your appointment is already booked there. All the paperwork is done for you. It's just sign
Yeah,
here, sign there. You got your bank account. Here's your card. Here's how it works. You got your SIM card and your phone, so you're all sorted. Like you kind of have everything sorted. And then you have someone which is here to support you for the whole year. If you do need extra help, there's also stuff now we can help you with traveling around New Zealand. We can help you with education and all those kind of things. So it's kind of like everything you do need to travel in New Zealand. But if you feel that you don't need any of the help and you just need to get the information and you can do everything yourself, it's definitely something which is very easy to do on your own as well. Just having one person that helps you and holds your hand also relieve of a little bit of the stress of the whole experience. But yeah, if you do want to get information, you can go on nzpocketguide.com, and it's like the Bible of traveling in New
mm-hmm.
Zealand. You get all the information you want, and we have dumped all our knowledge there absolutely for free, and there's no hidden kind of cost or anything like that. It's like either you need a bit of help, and then you get Working Holiday Starter, and we got a great team in Auckland that's going to help you with that, or you can do everything yourself, and you can go on nzpocketguide.com and you have all the information there. It's absolutely up to every traveler to want to do it their own way.
Yeah, depend what kind of person you are. If he's like someone
Exactly.
like you, someone like me, like no, I have no idea what to do. I didn't at that time. I didn't even speak English.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
for me, it's like I
But
have
but
no idea
but
what to do.
but if you're someone like me, actually, you are doing even worse. You go on our YouTube channel and you just watch the one trailer of someone doing fun things in New Zealand. You're like, New Zealand sounds fun, and you show up there. Because that's basically my way of traveling, right? I know nothing when I arrive in a place. I mean, obviously not anymore, because now when I travel, it's with a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But when I traveled around the world, I literally knew nothing aside from where it was on the globe. That was it.
Yeah, I barely knew where New Zealand was on the map when I applied for the visa. I only checked where New Zealand was on the map after I got the visa, and that, holy crap, how am I gonna tell my mom I'm going to New Zealand?
It's so small anyways, New Zealand folks. It has to be bigger. It's hard to find on the map. It's tiny.
I know sometimes it's even covered from somebody or something on the corner.
Yeah.
But
Actually, I play a lot of board games, and there is actually quite a lot of board games that use the world map to play with things. So, for example, a Pandemic is a very famous board games, and the world map of Pandemic does not feature New Zealand. There is Australia, and then there is a big emptiness right here. So,
which right now is a good thing.
Yeah, just if you don't know we're here, you can't, contaminate us. That's awesome.
Exactly. New Zealand is even Risk. Even if you play Risk, there's no New Zealand on the map.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Which is great. Why would you attack New Zealand? It's an island middle of nowhere with sheep.
Yeah.
Why would you attack New Zealand anyway? You can't even put the tank on. I think it's so small that you can't even put a tank on it.
There you go. If you can't put a tank on there, the country doesn't exist.
Exactly, you can't play. There was actually a group on Facebook called "Does New Zealand really exist?" People thought it was just like a country created for the movie.
Yeah, and they changed. I think they changed, or another group was formed, which was like a map without New Zealand, and they share a map of the world that forgot New Zealand, and they email the companies, and it's just funny.
And probably from there, people start believing that New Zealand actually doesn't exist. Like people still believe the world is flat.
Yeah, maybe. Listen, the flat earther community, which is way too vocal, that I decide not to attack them at all online. They do what they want. They can believe what they want to believe.
Oh, absolutely. It's a belief. So whatever they do, they want to do.
Exactly.
Going back to when you left France and you moved, start traveling, did you speak any English at that time?
No, really. I mean, you met French people on the road. They usually, even if they study English, they can't speak English very well. So I barely study English, actually, as a first language when I was in school. Believe it or not, I chose Russian.
Oh.
I don't know why. And I don't speak Russian, don't ask. But I picked that language. So I had no, let's say no knowledge of English whatsoever. I just picked it up as it went. And my first English country was actually in the USA. And so I did a lot of dishwashing with a bunch of Mexican immigrants. So I learned Mexican English.
Okay.
And I started graduating a little bit, and then I hang out with the locals, and that's how I learned. So I watched a lot of TV shows as well. And yeah, that was basically how I picked up English. And no, I did not speak English when I left France, and I learned on the go.
Okay, that would scare. I mean, I left Italy without any English too, but I was very careful when I went to New Zealand. In fact, when I went to Auckland, you suggest me to go to the English school, which I did for a month. And after that, even the following month, when I moved to Christchurch for work, even then I was, when I got the job, I could actually afford, and I started paying for a private teacher. I like a private teacher once or twice a week, and that was a huge help.
I personally feel like if you're genuine and if you're friendly, people will forgive your lack of English. And everybody learns differently. Some people, they need to write things, to remember things. You need to write them down, and you need to do a bit of exercise like that. For me, I need to embarrass myself. Here you go. I just did it. So you need to bring a little bit of shame to yourself in order to kind of don't do the mistake again. Because you see, for example, just right now, this mistake that I've done, right? My girlfriend is from England. I'm actually literally going to ask her, and hopefully I won't be doing the mistake again. And that's basically how I learn. I need to touch the pot to see if it burns, and if it burns my finger, then I remember.
But I did something
that's my only way to learn.
I did something similar on the way to New Zealand when I left Italy. My first plane from the first time I went to New Zealand, I quickly learned how to pronounce Coke.
I did exactly the same mistake.
I was asking for something else on the plane, and the hostess was like all embarrassed. Like she showed me the can of Coke. It's like, is this what you mean? Like yeah, exactly. If in my head was just like that's exactly what I was asking. But
the lady was nice to you. I got kicked out of the Wendy's in the USA, in Flagstaff, Arizona, in USA. I got kicked out of the Wendy's restaurant because I asked for a big Coke. And I asked for a big one, and the lady really did not find that funny. And I was a bit tired because I used to work in the kitchen, so we did long shifts and everything like that. And I was like, God damn it! And I kept on repeating it, like I want a big, I want a big, I want a big. And yeah, someone actually kicked me out and said, "Now you have to leave, sir. You have to leave." And so they walked me out, and then I learned how to pronounce Coke.
Yeah. Um. So you've been like so you traveled. For how many years did you travel around before you settled to New Zealand? Roughly.
Uh, Probably about 5 years, maybe. So I just kind of hopped on. I really don't remember the
Mhm.
date, and sorry about that.
No,
But
no.
yeah, so I hopped on a lot around a lot of different countries, just see what was floating my boat, trying a little bit of work or businesses here and there, just to see what really what was going in, and then I arrived in New Zealand, and luckily about 10 years ago, New Zealand was yeah, it was still kind of a big country and everything, but there was a lot of opportunities. So I definitely found like a space for me to kind of be able to express myself business wise, because that's really
Mhm.
kind of the way I express myself. And so that's why we went all in.
Okay. You mentioned earlier, before we started the interview, actually, that you had a few businesses even in other countries.
Yeah.
How easy was it to start a business on a visa?
Um Honestly, it's from my experience, right, it's about the same than anyone else. I feel like, let's take the example of New Zealand, for example,
Mhm.
right? My business, when I started it here, I was also just on the visa, right? You can be self-employed. And that's usually for most people the first step in starting a business. You self-employ
Mhm.
and you start your little thing, and then we grow. You kind of incorporate and you do a few more things. And for me, I have not seen any countries that was saying, "Oh, you absolutely have to be a citizen to start a business." So for me, it was never even a question or never a checkbox on the form. So I never really thought it was. I think it's more like a subconscious kind of barrier.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, I don't know the country, and I was like, yeah, but you bring something different, so why not?
No, no, no. That's from my perspective. I for maybe because when I always trying to I moved to the country on a working holiday visa and then change it to a work permit. So when you're on a work permit, you're pretty much locked down with that company.
Yeah.
In that case, you're not allowed to open a business, at least in most cases. So you were opening a business on a open work visa, which is like the working holiday visa, right?
Yeah, but I also was on a work visa at some point, and I no, it was listen, it was never an issue for me. I
Okay.
can't really dive into in depth because I do not know the legislation and everything like that. But literally, it was not. You have when you get a visa, you've been given conditions, and
Mm-hmm.
there was no condition says you cannot start a business. And when you open a business and you fill up the form, I never lied on the form, right? But it
Mm-hmm.
was never asked. Are you a resident or what type of visa do you have? So I feel like they're not related whatsoever, and I think
Okay.
it would be counterproductive for the country itself as well, because most of the innovators and most of the great world leaders are usually immigrants. Like
Yeah.
hell, even the CEO of Google right now is an Indian immigrant. and
Yeah.
and so it would be absolutely crazy for countries to just limitate those things. He's obviously now he's a U.S. citizen, but it would be absolutely crazy for a country to stifle innovation by stopping immigrants to start businesses. If you start a business and then your visa runs out, obviously you have to leave the country and you can't operate your business anymore. So that's a risk on you as a
Mm-hmm.
as a business owner, but it's not a risk on the country, and they have absolutely nothing to lose.
Okay, that's interesting. That's probably just like some boundaries I put to myself that you can't open a business if you are on a visa. You need to be at least a resident to open a business.
I mean, maybe in some countries, and that's
Mm-hmm.
that's worth looking into. I just do not see it happening. I mean, some countries, for example, like some countries in the South Pacific Islands, you have to partner on a business with a local in order for you to buy a business as a foreigner. If you're not, if you
Mm-hmm.
know. So, for example, you have some countries that have very clear conditions, but it's known. Like I know that just because I had an interest for those countries, but not even looking into businesses. It's just when I started looking about the country, it was written on some travel guides and everything like that. So I feel like it will be very obvious if you couldn't. And as soon as you start, you want to start a business, the first hurdle will be the paperwork. And as soon as you're going to see on the paperwork, it will tell you straight away if you can or cannot.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a similar situation. They got the similar situation in Switzerland. Even in Switzerland, if you want to open a business, you have to have a partner which is from Switzerland. at least a resident
Okay.
in Switzerland.
Okay. So as I say, it probably depends on the country. For me, I haven't seen the hurdle, or maybe I just got lucky, and that was 10, 15 years ago, and things have changed since then.
Yeah, maybe. No, but you're probably right. It's just probably some boundaries that I put to myself. I mean,
Yeah.
on my visa right now, it says that I can only work for the company I work for, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it doesn't say that I can't open a business. So I think I don't know, maybe I'm confused with the two things. Working for somebody else and opening your own business doesn't mean you're working for somebody else. Is your own.
Exactly.
It's not.
So and the thing is, like, just call the proper authority. I don't know if it's an immigration
Mhm.
department or a supervisor or something. Call that person and just see, hey, did I understand that correctly or not? And you usually get your answer pretty easily. I had some issues at some point with some paperwork, and I usually call and I get the answer that I want instantly. And almost every single time, the answer was the answer that I needed, and not the answer that. Um, so yeah, I think it's always worth trying.
Okay, sweet. I will definitely look into it.
Yeah, and
Um,
also think about where you can register your business as well. If you have to register your business in Italy and then operate in Vancouver or in New Zealand or whatever, it may work. There are hundreds and thousands of business. When you buy something from Apple, I can guarantee they are not registered in the country you are in. They're probably registered in the tax haven like Ireland, but they still can operate a business somewhere.
yeah,
So
no,
you
no,
can
no, that's
still
true.
provide all that, and then you just have to provide your invoices with the header of another country, and it's absolutely fine.
Yeah, no.
We do business with people from a lot of, there's a lot of companies which are not in New Zealand, which are buying advertisement on our website or those kind of things, and they're not in New Zealand whatsoever. They're in Europe or they're in Australia, and for them it's no issue, and we do really good business together.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, unfortunately, because I'm from Italy, opening a business in Italy, all the bureaucracy is probably just not worth it.
You put that in your head as well.
Yeah, no,
It is in the interest of governments to let people start businesses because it generates tax revenue and creates job, especially in a time like that right now. So I personally really truly believe that starting a business is way easier than people make it to be in their head.
yeah, I think it's once you do it once, you can just it probably get more confident. It gets easier, especially yeah.
Yeah.
As I said, that
And,
probably
and
is all in
and
my
listen,
head.
I've had this talk very, very often, to actually try to get people to, start a business or, pursue their idea, even just give it a shot for a little while. And I personally feel that it's super important for people to actually just give it a shot, because you'll be surprised as well. Even in the countries where you think there's going to be so much paperwork, you'll be surprised how little it actually is.
Okay, thanks for giving me the push to try and do
No
some.
worries, give it a shot.
Yeah, no, no, you're right. Um, so why did you stay in New Zealand? Was a particular reason you stayed in New Zealand?
So obviously New Zealand, if you have ever seen any pictures of New Zealand, it's absolutely stunning. So it's a country that captured your heart as soon as you land on there. And I felt kind of really good in the country first up, but also I saw a lot of opportunities. And we just talked a lot about businesses, and I felt like in a country as small as New Zealand, with as much opportunity as New Zealand, we could make a positive change. And that's really something that we strive to do, and we always try to go to smaller community and make big changes. So we created the largest travel guide here in New Zealand, and we push a lot for sustainable travel, because we know that people are always going to be traveling, but we want to help people do it in a bit more of a sustainable way. So we give a lot of tips on like how to travel a bit more sustainably. But New Zealand is also the gateway to all of the South Pacific, which is a ton of micronation or very small nations, which have a ton to offer to travelers, but also are really hurt by tourism. So I'm talking about countries like Fiji, Tonga, and Niue, for example, which most people have never heard of it.
Hmm.
But Niue is a fantastic country. So it's spelled Niue, if you guys are ever interested in Googling that country. And so yeah, we have something called Niue Pocket Guide, which is a travel guide there. And for instance, to celebrate the launch of the travel guide that we did, which is nuepocketguide.com, we decided to buy metal reusable straws for the whole country. So we bought
Hmm.
for every single restaurant, every bar, every resort. We sent them a big set of metal reusable straw, and all in one fell swoop, we eradicated all the plastic straw in the whole country. And it's something that we don't, we didn't really advertise that so much or anything like that, but it's just kind of a fun way for us to start that. It's a very small country. There's only about 1,200 people in there, but it's stunning. It has beautiful coral. It has some of the clearest water in the world, because there is no natural runoffs from the islands. So if you are, looking to see some whales, you can go swim with whales over there. It's absolutely fantastic. And for us, being able to make such a big change, being just 30 something years old, emigrant, and make those big, create those big changes, was just so important for us, and we were able to do that. So yeah, New Zealand was the right place, and yeah, no regrets. Awesome. And we keep on doing that. We've done similar things in Tonga, Fiji, and we're going to keep doing it all around the South Pacific.
Sounds great. Sounds
Yeah,
great.
it's fun.
Yeah, no, sounds great, and good for you guys to be able to do that and to do that. I would just put all the link you just said in the show notes so people can reach and see what you guys doing, if it's okay for you.
Oh yeah, if you want to do that, you can. And if no one is interested in checking out those travel guides, it's 100% fine. I hope that at least I inspire people to kind of consider, you know, not just traveling for traveling, but maybe if you're planning on relocating, almost every option is available to you, and not just the fact that you're going to be grinding as a worker. You can definitely make a difference as an immigrant, and there is millions of immigrants that shows that every single day in New Zealand and in the world. After all, we're all immigrants. We all were born somewhere in Africa, and then we started traveling around when we started standing in our 2 feet and carrying fires around. So we're all immigrants at some point.
Yeah, no, especially like new country like New Zealand, Australia, or the US or Canada. Just this like
Yeah,
new
there's
countries.
most of the borders and the concept of countries is mostly red tape, in my opinion, right? It's mostly red tape rather than anything else, and it's just a way to kind of bounce people together and create a herd mentality rather than an individual mentality, which has its perks and its benefits, but it doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of what life really is.
Yes, but at the same time, having boundaries and borders and country that creates cultures, right?
I personally disagree with that. There are a ton of countries. For example, Papua New Guinea, which is a country which is north of Australia.
Hmm.
They have a ton of different islands, and it's actually it's quite a small country for what it is. Most people haven't even heard of it, but it's the country with the highest amount of languages. So I think they have over 300 languages. So for a country which is just one country, having 300 languages is fascinating. You currently live in Canada, right? There is the Inuit culture, which is really strong and really amazing, and it's extremely different than the more urban Canadian culture. And then you have Quebec, which has its own strong culture as well, and which is still within the same Canadian country, right? And even in between all the different regions, or even all the different areas, and even within a single city, when you have like a Chinatown and other parts of the city, you have different culture. So I think the culture just comes from the people. And sometimes, yes, it comes in grouping of people, but you do know how to put red tape and borders in order to define culture. There is way more than that. So I feel like even borderless, even places that would be borderless will have strong different cultures, and that will not change, in my opinion, anything to how people live and the strength of the culture. If anything, it would just make those cultures more accessible and therefore more shareable and therefore stronger, and they will have less chances to disappear, because you're always going to have someone who's going to be picked interest-wise by a culture or another.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, I think the mentality that people have about boundaries and countries and community creates this kind of culture. Like you said, a city. People having like because you're from Vancouver or you're from a different city, you're from there, so you act in different situation. Quebec is a how you call it it's a state,
Yeah.
right? And because it's Quebec, you have to speak French, and just like because you create this area close area of is like a community. And I think it's in some other countries, I think it's good having these kind of boundaries because it preserve um their culture. For example, like North America, people came from Europe, and they just get rid of the natives. If you do that
Yes,
in
but
some of the other
okay,
countries, like a
so
small,
I get that. Usually cultures are locally based, right? And that's usually what it is. It's the same thing in high school, right? You can have the table with the cool kids and the table with the geeks and the
yeah.
table with that. Doesn't mean that you have to put red tape in between all those. And I will argue that the culture will remain even if you were to remove the border. If you remove the lines around Quebec, if you remove the lines around Canada, you will actually still have those cultures in place. You will still have that. For example, I'm going to give you another example. We talked about the country of Niue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very small country. There is only 1,200 people in there. You drive
Oh
through the
wow.
entire country in about 30 minutes, right? That is as small as it is. Well, the locals tell us that they can tell if someone is from the northern part of the island and someone is from the southern part because there is slight differences in language. There is absolutely no red tape. It's literally just, it's smaller than the town I'm living in right now. And yet they still have difference of culture, despite the fact that there is no border whatsoever. So the culture will, in my opinion, will still be there, right? It's just harder to get to, and there's just more red tape. And I feel like it would be nicer to have the whole world being like Niue, being like completely free flowing in between the cultures.
Yeah, no, I know I get what you're trying to
I'm
what you
just a hippie.
no, no, no. And don't get me wrong, I love your idea. I'm just like afraid that if you remove borders, people take advantage and they just they're gonna do more like a harm than actually good by getting rid of small cultures. Like people, I don't know, from the Western culture, they come over and they take over, they start their own business, they hotel and something, and they just get rid of like their own the beauty of the country. That's what I'm worried about.
It doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that you have not to preserve. Like, let's say we have a beautiful national park, it can still remain a national park, and you can't build there because it's a beautiful place. I'm just saying you can travel if you're from India. You do have the right to go and live in the USA if that floats your boat. Why not?
Yeah, yeah, no, no, no. As I said, it's a beautiful concept. I'm just like I don't trust people that much. Let's put it that way. I think it's like
and yet you chose to immigrate in multiple countries.
I did,
and
but it's
and and I'm pretty sure when you did it, you were a bit off put by the fact that there was so much paperwork and it was a bit harder and everything. What if when you came to New Zealand, well, you didn't have to change your bank account, you didn't have to change your phone. The world was just one place. You just had to fly in there and just start your life in there. And you may have to adapt to the culture, i.e., the language, and maybe a bit more learning more about the New Zealand culture itself. But that everything else was really seamless. Wouldn't it be a much nicer experience?
yes and no. Would it be an easier experience? But at the same time, I think when they put me the obstacles on the way, they push me to get better. Okay, do I need to have that kind of job? Okay, I need to learn the new skills to get that job to be able to move to New Zealand. To have like a certain income, certain skills, I think it's good because they preserve their own. They don't just get anybody. I think it's to preserve their own country, the economy of the country. Okay, we take people that we need. We don't just take anybody and come here and do nothing.
So you're
Because
saying that it did force you to better yourself.
exactly, absolutely.
Okay, and to deserve the right to travel. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, probably yes. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's cool. That's a good concept as well. I personally feel that if the whole place, the whole world was just one beautiful free place to travel to, well, at that point, there would be no need to preserve the economy because that would be just a world economy, and there would not be. But again, I'm just being a crazy hippie.
No, 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 no. I think it's a beautiful idea, a beautiful concept. As I said, I don't trust people. I think like a people that okay, right now the economy is great in the US. Everybody's moving to the US. They ruin the economy over there because there's like a not enough work or not enough jobs. Okay, people move somewhere to think the grass is greener, and they just all move to a different part of the country. They just ruin another country. And not having these kind of boundaries, like for example, to get a residency, you actually to get a work permit in Canada, I have to prove my English level. I think
Yes.
that's great. If you want to stay in Canada, you need to learn the language, either French or English. These are two languages. You need to learn those languages. If you don't have, if you didn't have those boundaries, people will come here and speak their own language, and that's I think get rid of the beauty. So why do you travel to to Thailand if everybody speaks French or everybody speaks English. It's just get rid of the culture. You know what I mean?
No, I definitely understand. But on the other hand, for personal experience, right? If I had to prove my level of English when arriving in New Zealand, and I did, I actually did struggle with that because I didn't learn English at school, and I didn't want to learn English at school because this is not the way I am as a person. I could speak English, I could articulate myself, and I am right now, but I didn't have any paperwork to prove that my English was correct. So obviously, it was a bit hard for a person like me to be able to come to New Zealand. And yet I had a lot to offer. And then, I've created the largest travel guide that New Zealand has to offer. I've helped develop the tourism industry in other neighboring nations, which are supported financially by New Zealand in order to sustainably develop themselves. And I've enhanced tremendously the New Zealand economy. But if there was a little bit more red tape, if there was actually the current red tape that there is right now to immigrate in New Zealand, I just wouldn't have made it. And
Yeah,
therefore, New Zealand would have missed out on someone like me. May not be a bad thing. I'm not saying I'm amazing, but I'm just saying I feel like I had a really good impact on New Zealand, and I feel like with the extra red tape now, someone like me that's trying to come in just wouldn't actually get in.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you get stuck at home, and you don't have the motivation because you kind of like, okay, well, home is home. I'm not really that interested in everything. Just end up being a drone doing 9 to 5 jobs and not necessarily be that happy and not fulfill yourself to your full potential. I'm almost certain that as a person, I only was able to fulfill my full potential after immigrating because I had the motivation,
Yeah.
because I had, I was kind of like, say I was in a different environment, and this tickled my brain enough to sparkle all my ideas and the way I decided to work and the person that I became. I'm probably a complete opposite person to what I used to be back where I used to live.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I completely agree. Even for me, like emigrating, changing, moving to a different country, leaving my own country was the biggest change I made in my life, and still the best choice I ever made. If it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for learning a new language, I would be a completely different person. Even then, like going through these obstacles, learning to survive, because it's in one way it's surviving. It's, I don't know. It's just like it makes you stronger, make you more resilient uh, of what life is
Oh,
throwing
I
to
couldn't
you.
agree more. I was not able to learn a foreign language when I was in school back in France, but when it was learn a foreign language and get a job or don't eat, well, you get much better at languages. That's
Yeah,
obviously how it works. And so that's why I personally feel like I want more people to get this chance. However, the great thing about this conversation right here is that no matter how you cut it, you will win because there is no way to cut the red tape. So it will still remain. I just like to have a hippie dream of everybody be able to, travel around and just roam the earth as we used to do it when we were hairy monkeys. That's it.
yeah, that's true. Just like different kind of paperwork. Maybe just open the working holiday visa to more countries and have less boundaries. That would be definitely a good start.
Mhm.
Maybe we can start on the next planet, no having boundaries. Maybe Mars. Maybe we can start from
Oh
Mars.
no,
I doubt.
you know how planet exploration is going already. Planets are then going to be owned not by governments but by corporations. That's just going to be very different.
Yes.
That's why there's a rush to get there. If you claim it for your corporation and for one person. So we're going more backward because a corporation is owned by a bunch of people. So we're going back to monarchy more than democracies. So it's gonna be cyclic, and that's what human nature is anyway. It's always a cycle. It's like fashion.
Yeah.
Like flower prints are not in fashion nowadays. They're
Yeah.
probably going to be in fashions again in about 8 years, and it's okay. So democracy won't be anymore. It's going to be corporation monarchies on different planets, but we won't be here to see that.
Oh, we never know.
Oh,
We
I
never
don't know
know.
how long you're
It's
planning
more
to live,
likely
but I
that
can tell you right now, I am not going to be there to see that.
I don't know. They're talking about being on Mars in a 5 to 10 years.
Do you really
It's more
think?
likely you're gonna share Amazon on Mars before they go Amazon in New Zealand.
I think you are correct on that, but yeah, do you really think that's happening? I mean, I feel like there's so many promises for this, like space exploration. I don't know. Maybe a handful of people, like walking on the moon. It was like two guys, but like actual some people living there and being accessible and everything. I don't think it's gonna be in my lifetime. I'd love to see that. That would be fantastic to see. I'm just dubious. Like the Tesla car are still not selling as well, and are still not all produced yet. So let's just give us the Tesla car first, and then after we'll see if we can fly to Mars.
Yeah, but if you see like the progress they made on these like a new rockets, it just in the last in the last 3 to 5 years, probably even less. They just like they went from NASA in a big like organization from countries to like a private corporation. Now they got Blue Origin
Yep.
from like Amazon,
I think it's
from Jeff
Virgin.
Bezos from
No,
Amazon.
which one is Virgin? Oh, Virgin Atlantic. Sorry, Virgin.
Virgin Atlantic, I think they were like just going to they wanted just to do like a going to space just
Oh
for
yeah.
tourism. I don't think they ever tried to go to multiple
Oh
planets.
wow.
But like Blue Origin from Jeff Bezos and SpaceX from Elon
Yeah.
Musk, they're two companies. They actually built self-landing rockets, and they're pushing very hard to go to Mars in as soon as possible.
Yeah. Listen, if they get there, and I'd like to be wrong. I'd like to see that. I just feel like I don't think that a person like me will have a chance to see Mars in my lifetime. But yeah. But humans maybe in Mars. You may be right. To be fair, we're just speculating and we have so little information right here. I think we went way off topic.
Yeah, no,
But I'd
yeah,
love to see
absolutely.
that.
No, we went from emigrating to different country to emigrate to a different
Hey,
planet.
listen, that's the way to take your podcast to the next level. When you're gonna
Exactly.
have scrap the barrel of the bottom, which happens to most people that have a podcast. You're nowhere near there. But when you're gonna realize, like, oh, what else do I talk about on that subject? Well, go to space. That's always a great place to
That's good
start.
space. You can open like, the audience to not just the planet Earth, but even like out there. If somebody can hear this message, we're coming in peace.
Exactly. It's like me, my business is to do travel guides for New Zealand and the South Pacific Islands, right? When I'm going to be done with the South Pacific Islands, because there is only about 20 of them, maybe Mars. Maybe I can do the first travel guide to Mars.
That would be
What about
awesome.
that?
Would you really do that? Would you really do that if they have the chance to go to Mars?
Why not?
I like the answer.
Yeah, I mean, like, I do not see a single reason not to.
I mean, probably 6 months of traveling. Maybe this would be the only barrier.
Well,
It'd be a
like
little bit
the
boring
first
to
people
get
that
there, but
colonized New Zealand were Polynesians that just came from high islands, probably like Hawaii and everything, and they spent about 3 months on a small wooden canoe, and they survived. If they can
yeah,
spend 3 months on a small wooden canoe, I'm pretty sure I can spend 6 months in a beautiful high-tech space shuttle with unlimited entertainment. That we have nowadays. Like 6 months. It's how many episodes of Tiger King is that? It's not that many. So here you go. I can just binge Netflix and play some video games, and I think it'd be done in a flash.
yeah. But at the same time, back then they didn't have all this comfort we have right now.
Exactly.
So
So right now I'm gonna have unlimited amount of entertainment. My brain will not have the time to rest in 6 months.
yeah, maybe. I mean, even if like going back like 30 years ago, I think I met a guy there was like this old dude at the airport. That was when I was waiting for my mom in Christchurch in New Zealand. And this guy, he moved to New Zealand 30, 40 years ago or something like that. Even then, like he went there on a boat. It took like 6 months to
Yeah.
get from, I think it was from the UK. So from the UK to New Zealand was 6 months on a boat.
Yeah, to hell with that.
So
If they can do it, why cannot I just do on the space shuttle and go to Mars?
yeah, no. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not saying it's
That
going to be
would,
the most pleasant experience, and it wasn't for them as well. Many people have emigrated and haven't had the best experience in the world doing so because the journey is pretty painful. But as you were saying before, you want to deserve your immigration. Well, back in the days, there was no paperwork to do. You literally landed in the USA and you were given a piece of land and go on and go either search for gold or start farming. That's what used to happen. You know what was the hurdle for you to, now the hurdle is paperwork. The hurdle was to actually make your way up there. It was so painful. You had to battle scurvy and all this nonsense. If they can do it, some people, it's gonna be a struggle for the first few people going to Mars, and then transport is gonna get better, it's gonna get faster, and then you know people that will have went there first will be like, oh, back in my days, it was really hard. It took us 6 months in the space shuttle, and we only had like
Yeah.
freeze dry food. And then people are going to travel in a week, and they're going to have delicious food. It's fine. I think like if you have to endure a little bit, you just enjoy the reward even more. Anyway, here's a
Yeah.
message to Elon Musk and Mr. Bezos. If you guys need someone to do a travel guide of Mars, just send us a ticket. I know tickets to Mars are actually pretty cheap nowadays. So if you want to compensate with a little bit of a ticket to Mars, go for it.
Just,
It's only worth like 2 billions or whatever, so it's pretty cheap, guys.
yeah, no, exactly. Who doesn't have 2 billions in those
Yeah,
days?
there's just pocket change. Anyway,
Okay, and going back to
yeah,
Earth.
let's land back. Apparently, they're self-landing rockets.
Let's back there and go back to your experience of leaving the country. What was the biggest upside a bit about leaving your country?
I think it removes all the safety nets. I think when you're in your own country, you have a lot of safety nets, and you are thinking, oh well, if that doesn't work, you always have the backup of friends and family all the time. Or if that doesn't work, there is your government is helping you on all that. But when you emigrate, you feel like you have to make it, or
Mm-hmm.
or you're not, or you're not gonna eat. It's not really that, but you know what I mean. So I feel like it kind of really but it's yourself still, but it's yourself on steroids. So when it was time for me to start business and to do this and to do that, it's kind of like make it or break it. And I think that's really the best upside for when you decide to go, because you can connect and you can Skype with your friends as much as you want. They're not here to get you back. You have to have your own back, and I think that's the best thing,
Yeah.
because under pressure, I feel like people perform better.
Yeah, no, I can't agree. I can't agree more. That's the reason why I left New Zealand to move to Canada, because I felt I was too comfortable. I had my side hustle. I was working on my things at night and working during the day. It's just like I have my 9 to 5 and the extra time I was doing for my working on my side hustle. I was just feeling too comfortable.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to go back, put myself in trouble. That's how I want to call it. As I went to move to New Zealand, that's where you perform 100%.
Yep. I
I
cannot agree
can't
more. Yeah.
agree more. What was the biggest thing you think that helped you in your journey?
Uh, I don't. I think not being too scared, like just being so nonchalant. I was kind of like, oh well, if it doesn't work, doesn't work. Things always work out anyway. So I wasn't really not being panicky too much. I think I think that's the thing that helped me the most, and I feel like this is really why we have those travel guides ready for people. That's why we have a Z Pocket guide, because even people which are overthinker and over planner, I just want to give them all the information. So that's kind of like, oh, all the information is there. It's kind of relieve all the stress. So I feel like what helped me was the fact that I wasn't stressing out whatsoever. It's kind of like, if things, if the shirt hits the fan, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, and that's really the feeling I want to give to people. So that's why we made those travel guides, because if you are thinking what if, and you start in your brain going nuts on all the bad scenarios that could happen, you're never going to do anything. There is always a million things that can go wrong, but if everything goes well, it's awesome. And if something goes wrong, you learn from it and you are living
Yeah.
with life experiences. It's okay, no matter what. And so that's why we decided to do that. And that's why we go so nuts and we put so many hours in creating all those travel guides. Because if you are the overthinker, you reach our travel guide, you see all the information, no one has charged you for anything, it's all free, you get all that. And you're like, okay, there's a community of people that actually put their knowledge there. They all done it. There is all the information. I'm feeling relief. I'm going to jump and I'm going to go do it.
I agree. One question that came to my mind right now. Let's see if you agree with me. Because when I left New Zealand, and because I quit my secure job,
Hmm.
like I put in like air quote secure
Yeah.
job, because there's not any secure job anymore. But that at the time that everybody was telling me like, what are you doing, Daniel? Quitting your secure job to go to the unknown. But for me, like quitting my job, selling my car, leave everything behind, make me feel like I had nothing to lose, and they give you like they open all the doors, because why you don't have anything to lose? You can just move up from there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree
Because
100% with that. I mean, there's so many people that ended up like being owned by their position. You know, like you have the car, so you have to pay the credit line for the car. You have a house, so you have to pay for your mortgage and so on. And there's just so many of those things. You know what I mean? When you remove all that from the equation, then you just got like you're a human person traveling a little bit with a certain amount of savings. And, that's all you are. You know, it's you and your backpack. And I feel like it's, it bringing you to first understanding life better, in my opinion, understanding yourself better, and also like it's kind of there's nothing else, it's just that. So if you don't make it work, well, you're left with just that little. If you invest that thousand in that, I don't know, little business you want to start, and you don't make it, well, you're left with whatever you had minus this 1,000. And so there is actually there is a stake. And I feel like there is a miss.
Yeah.
A lot of people miss that. There's no stake in life. What's your stake? What's the stake every day? What are you thriving for? What's your, why are you here? And, what drives you? And I feel like I always kind of know what drives me. I always know where I'm going. I know what I'm about to lose if I don't make it, and what I'm about to gain if I make it. And there is always this balance, and that's how my balance keeps on going. And I feel like a lot of people don't have that. And I feel like the easiest way to get that is when you kind of leave everything and just start afresh.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, I think we're going to the last question. This is like an imaginary question. If you could have a time machine and go back in time to the time or the day you left France, what would you tell to yourself at that time?
You're right, go on. Good on you, mate.
Good on you.
Good on you, mate. I don't know. Obviously I made mistakes, but I wouldn't want to not do those mistakes, because otherwise I wouldn't have learned from them, and I'll be a moron traveling and making mistakes again. I feel like you learn more from your mistake than you will ever learn in school. So, I couldn't have traveled earlier than I did. So I wouldn't say travel earlier or anything. I would just say, go on, just do exactly what you were planning, fork it up when you fork it up, and stand back up and just keep going. That's just what life is. So I'd be like, go on.
Sweet. Yeah, great answer.
What about
Great
you?
answer.
What would you tell yourself? Do you think you may, is there any mistakes you want to change?
No, what I would tell myself would be, don't worry, everything's gonna work out.
Yeah, but if you don't worry, then there's no stake. So you don't want to say that either, because then you're kind of like, yeah, I know I'm gonna make it, so I'm not gonna stress too much.
No, but because then the problem will be on your way. It's not gonna be easy. You're gonna go through the process, but at the same time, it's like it's gonna work out at the end.
That's true.
It's just like it probably what I would say is like go ahead, because it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
Which I knew at the time anyway, but now it's definitely totally worth it.
Nice.
So if people want to reach out to you, is there any way they can get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Yeah, there's plenty. If you are planning a trip to New Zealand, you can check out nzpocketguide.com. It's the largest travel guide to New Zealand, and it's all free, so there is no catch right here. Just check out the website. And if you want to actually ask us questions, if you feel like a little bit stressed, you can join us on YouTube every single Sunday at 8 a.m. New Zealand time. We are on YouTube, and we do 1 hour of Q&A. So we're just sitting down on our couch, and we take questions from the live chat, and we answer questions of travelers. So you can join us then and chat with us then. If you're planning a trip to Fiji, you can check fijipocketguide.com. If you're planning a trip to Tonga, you can check tongapocketguide.com. If you plan a trip to Niue, you can check niuepocketguide.com. And I think we're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all this nonsense. Just type the name of those businesses and you can find us. I think that's how it works. But yeah, that's it.
So many pocket guides.
Yeah, well, yeah. So we have pocket guides for most of the South Pacific islands, but that's the one that I like to highlight right now.
It's great. You guys must be really, really, really busy. That sounds like.
But it's you're not never busy a day in your life if you do what you love. So I don't feel like I'm busy. I'm really happy.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. Thank you very much for your time for today.
Thank you very much for having me, Daniel.
No worries. My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Hope you enjoyed this conversation I had with Robin. If you want to get in touch with him, or if you want to check his work and his guides, I will post all the links in the show notes. I encourage you to Google Niue because it's absolutely stunning. It's spelled NIUE. One more thing. We discussed opening a business on a visa. Before going ahead and do it, check with the local authorities if you are allowed or not. If you want to support the show, you can share this episode and you can leave us a review. That will help others finding this show. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you want to be on the show, you can send me an email at stories@emigrantslife.com or visit emigrantslife.com.